What's up, everybody? It is Zach of the Dark Conservatarian YouTube channel, and I've been meaning to get this video out for quite a while now, but over the course of the last month, it's been really busy and dramatic and just in general hectic for me in my personal life, so I haven't had the time or motivation or both to get this out in a timely enough fashion. But it's in regards to my one last live stream responding to well, not Steven Crowder, but responding to Just Pearly Things and Gerald What's-His-Face, who is like Steven Crowder's CEO of Louder with Crowder, about the whole divorce drama. And more specifically, I wanted to talk about the subject of verbal abuse. And also, in hindsight about that live stream, I just recently gave it a re-listen, and I think that the worst part of it, in my opinion anyways, was one that whenever Pearly kept on saying blessing, I did not realize that she was like referring to an actual person. Like, how much do you have to hate your son to name him Blessing? I'm sorry that you did not have a girl so that you could like name her Faith instead of ending up with a son, and you want to like have some faith-based name for him, but why Blessing? I mean, just call your son Fred and be done with it or something. But anyway, it was like confusing as to what she was actually trying to say at one point, because she kept on saying blessing, which is typically a concept of well, not necessarily of religion, but I bless you, hopefully you will be blessed, that kind of concept. People do not typically ever call a person blessing. What the heck? But one thing in particular that I will stand by is the whole issue of verbal abuse. That emphasizing the point that Steven Crowder was verbally abusive to his wife, and thus it was like completely understandable as to why that Hillary would eventually like have a breaking point to where that she would want to divorce Steven, especially with what was shown in the Ring video right there. I'm not going to talk so much about what was supposedly taken out of context or whatever have you. If you want to like know my opinions about that specifically, then go watch the live stream itself. But a lot of people contended with the idea that verbal abuse is even a thing. And this is quite concerning to me, quite honestly, as I personally know a story, very personal story, of a couple of where that the man was pretty verbally abusive. Not so much anything physical, but the way that he would degrade the woman and insult her too, for that matter, over frivolous shit when she was actually bringing up some legitimate points. It was pretty bad, and I would definitely call it verbal abuse. Now, Just Pearly Things did not really have any substance to bring up and try to bring back up her point as to how that verbal abuse is not a thing. She just kept on saying over, at least twice anyways, throughout the whole video, that abuse is one-sided hitting. That's the only classifier for abuse? Well, then I guess almost nothing is abuse then. Oh, almost nothing is domestic abuse or whatever. Like, but there was... Actually, no, there was one point of where that she gone bringing something up to say, in response to all the people who believe that verbal abuse is a thing. She said, a husband telling his wife no is not verbal abuse. Like, who the fuck even, like, believes that? Honestly, that saying no to your wife is verbal abuse. Who the fuck even believes that? I mean, aside from radical feminists, who actually believes that? What conservative specifically, unironically, actually believes that just saying no to your wife is verbal abuse? There was a whole lot more to the Ring video than just Steven saying no to Hillary. It was him making all these browbeating demands, him saying, I will fuck you up, and him saying, watch it, fucking watch it, and probably the kicker of it all, I don't love you. Like, who the fuck even says I don't love you straight to the face of their own spouse? I mean, truthfully, if you really feel it in your heart of hearts that you feel no love to a certain person, that is the thing that you go see a counselor for, that you go see a therapist for, go talking out to them. You do not say that to the face of your spouse just in a situation like that. You go saying to your therapist, honestly, I'm searching my heart, and I feel in my heart of hearts that I really don't love this person. I really do not love the person I'm married to. Then again, maybe Steven Crowder is one of these extremely anti-therapy type of conservatives who thinks that therapy is gay or wimpy or for the weak or some shit. You say it to your own supposed to be loved one, I can pretty solidly call that verbal abuse, especially if or abuse of some kind anyways. Emotional abuse, I guess, would probably be the more specific kind. Not verbal abuse necessarily, but emotional abuse. And especially if those 4 words, I don't love you, translates in some other manner of them showing how they don't love them. Don't show up for some event or whatever that they really take for example, a dad does not show up to their daughter's music recital or something like that. Not because that he's too busy or anything, but just because he doesn't really love his daughter. I mean, the fact alone that he doesn't show up might not necessarily be abuse, but the fact that you couple that with a statement of, I don't love you, just as a completely arbitrary example, we can call pretty much emotional abuse. And it's like, what the fuck, dude? Now, different varying degrees on whether or not that something can be classified as good reason to divorce somebody. And I know that we as Christians that we say that really the only reason for divorce should be if one or the other party is unfaithful to their spouse, if you catch them cheating or whatever. But really, it is probably a bigger conversation to have with some theologians at some time, I would say. Is there some other implied reasons as to why it could be legitimate reason for somebody to divorce another person? And really, ultimately, I just gotta pose the question, which is better? A person putting up with a life of misery by continuing to associate and be married to their spouse, all for the sake of avoiding that one measly sin, or sinning, in order to avoid that remaining lifetime of misery. Which is worse? I mean, we all sin anyway, so it seems to be pretty much a moot point, almost in my mind. I mean, but anyway, I'm getting a little bit off on a tangent, and it was so ridiculous. Another argument that was brought forth to me was actually by a fan, or I guess at this point, former fan of the channel, who gone to saying, I get what the implied argument is supposed to be, but in the live chat he was all like, you guys are being abusive, or being verbally abusive. Wasn't specifying to who that me and Loudmouth, who was streaming with me right there, are being abusive to. If it was to him or to just Pearly Things, but either way, it was kind of ridiculous. Nobody is saying. I'm not trying to devalue the meaning of the word abuse to where that it encompasses literally everything. Nobody is believing, and myself including, I don't believe that saying no to your wife is abusive. I don't even believe that spanking in moderation of your kids as a disciplinary act is abusive. If you go spanking just completely out of anger and frustration and keep on spanking them until their butt goes red, starts bruising, or even worse, starts bleeding, then damn well that's abusive. But I mean, it's of the physical type, of course, so maybe they won't have much of a quarrel with me calling that abusive. But anyway, not going to say that a parent saying to their kid, you're not allowed to have a cookie, you're not allowed to do this or that or the other thing, that's abusive just by itself. Heck no. But statements of "I don't love you," kind of pretty emotionally abusive. Like, we want to say that words are meaningless, that words do not cause any physical harm, but there's a little bit more to words, especially when it comes to loved ones. And when specifically it comes to the issue of supposedly, like, the argument was put forth that I was being abusive to Pearl for some reason. Like, nobody is going to start saying that, for example, Antifa, like, shouting in right-wingers' faces, that is like abuse, technically. I mean, there are like multiple different kinds of negative connotations, negative words that we can pin on that kind of stuff. But abusive, technically no. Antifa punching a conservative who they think to be a Nazi, is that physical abuse? Not necessarily. It's assault, but not necessarily abuse, because it's not like that conservative falls under the jurisdiction or whatever of an Antifa member. In fact, you know what? Let me pull up and read the definition of verbal abuse right now. So, the definition of abuse specifically, not even verbal abuse, is to treat a person or an animal with cruelty or violence, especially repeatedly or regularly. Like, I just read off the definition of abuse specifically, not even a verbal abuse, which a lot of these more extremists like Red Pill, pro Steven Crowder conservatives will dismiss, but cruelty, keyword right there, to treat a person or an animal with a cruelty, especially regularly or repeatedly. Like, honestly, if you do have like a one-off circumstance of where that you were over the top with corporal punishment with your kids, or you one time, like, accidentally or mistakenly rather called your wife a bitch or something, I would hesitate to call that abuse, really. If you're repeatedly doing that, then yeah, that gets abusive, I will affirm. But with cruelty, like, not, it also says like physically and with violence, but it says cruelty or violence. And this is like one example that I've been thinking of particularly. Like, you definitely can be verbally cruel to somebody within your marriage or within your family structure in general. But the one example that I've been thinking of in my head is, what if a dad was to be so dry humor, sarcastic with their kids to where that just makes them go questioning what reality even is, without even giving some kind of disclaimer after the fact or whatever. Hey, I was just kidding. Like, immediately afterward too, by the way. Like, imagine if a dad was to be all like, you better do the dishes or I'll kill you, or something. You better do this or that or I'll kill you. You better do this or that, or I'll kick you out of the house or whatever. And then he just does that kind of sarcasm repeatedly to eventually the kid, the son, or whatever kid goes breaking down and be like, yeah, I'm scared, daddy's mean. And then the dad is just all like, buck up, you little shit, or something like that. That is verbal abuse. Can we agree that that would be verbally abusive? That kind of situation that I thought up right there? Like, and of course there are like multitude kind of examples of where the person would be verbally cruel, or, in other words, verbally abusive, within the definition that I just read off there. And within Steven Crowder's specific example, he said, I will fuck you up. Supposedly, I guess Steven Crowder did not mean I will fuck you up in a physical sense. Or I think that might be a possibility. I have to, give another look at it. But regardless, I don't care what the context is. You do not just brazenly, say, I will fuck you up to your wife. Or to your husband, too, for that matter, for, in the case of wives. Or I will fuck you up to your kids, or something like that. It's one thing for you to say, you better not hit your kid or I will hit you. In other words, corporal punishment, spanking, or something like that. That's one thing, but just out of nowhere, or for any kind of stupid reason beyond that, pretty cruel to even threaten that kind of threat right there. The statement of watch it, fucking watch it, and just in general, all these different things that he was doing to ultimately scare Hillary Crowder in the instance right there. Him like going on bitching about how he's not able to do this, that, or the other thing. He's starting to feel some constraints. Just the whole arguing right there. I mean, arguing in general is not by itself abusive, but the constraints and all that stuff that Stephen was like putting on Hillary for like seemingly no good reason delves into the area of abuse. And you add on top of it all these different things like I will fuck you up, I don't love you, and better fucking watch it. That kind of stuff. It just... And you know, it also goes pondering the question right here. I mean, if supposedly verbal abuse does not exist to all these pro-Stephen conservatives out there, well then, what do they classify Hillary saying to Stephen? Because in that video that Pearl did in response and covering of the ring of footage and the I guess a video or audio recording that took place right after that moment right there of where that Hillary was supposedly gaslighting Stephen. In that audio bit, Just Pearly Things was saying supposedly that she was gaslighting Stephen Crowder, just for stating of how that she was scared when he said, I will fuck you up. Apparently, according to Just Pearly Things, you as a spouse should not tell your spouse that I was scared. Otherwise, you're gaslighting, according to this cockamamie, poor excuse of logic that Pearl just purported right there. It's just absolutely ridiculous, honestly. But they call it gaslighting. She calls it gaslighting. So, if verbal abuse does not exist, well then, wouldn't that be classified as verbal abuse in the eyes of Pearl? Hillary saying all this stuff to say, I was scared of you? If that's not verbal abuse, then I don't know what to tell you. I do not know what to tell all you pro-Stephen conservatives out there. But yeah, just some thoughts that I had to get off my mind, because really, this needs to be put to a stop. Otherwise, we're just setting ourselves up for failure. Gonna start to justifying all sorts of different types of domestic abuse scenarios with this kind of logic that is being put forth right here. It just sets a very bad precedent, and I don't like it. And it just it turns conservative on against conservative for like no rather good reason. And this whole Stephen, why do you have to like treat your wife like that? Fuck you. I think that's all I really had to say. I am Zach, the Dark Conservatarian, and I will try my best to like get back to regular content creation, but I'm still like in the process of searching for a new job, and I'm serious when I say I'm in the process of searching for a new job right here. Forget about those hiatuses that I did in the years-long past. I'm being for real and for serious this time. I need to get myself, honestly, a new job before too long. Otherwise, it's just going to be a very miserable life for me. And I am not going to put the full gas on back on my YouTube channel until that. Amongst a couple other things that are in my life, relevant in my life right now. Also need to like move, actually. Because my current lease is almost up. But yeah, that's why I've been out for so long. But I'm not gone for good, just to let y'all know. Anyway, y'all have a good day, and I'll see you whenever next time is. God bless. Bye-bye.